So here we have the Fist of the Heavens Pony Satyr. I like to call it the Pony Satyr because you're on the pony so much and you're horsing around with the draw and quarter rune, pulling monsters. Pulls are such a huge centerpiece of this build. It's actually kind of nice. So it's a close range build. You're going to suck everything to you with the vacuum rune on Condemn. You can actually mix mix these together. The drawn quarter rune on Steed Charge and the vacuum Condemn. For example, you can cast Condemn and then enter the horse and like charge ahead and it will suck enemies as you move. Or you can use the horse to pull enemies using the drawn quarter rune to an Oculus Ring, for example. The elites in particular are valuable targets to manipulate in this way. And then you would cast your Condemn on that location, to pull more enemies in, more trash mobs in, to get even more damage, more area damage, more damage focused on that one location. We are using Fist of the Heavens Fisher for this particular build. We'll create chains, basically, between the different points of contact that you create on the ground, which is very nice. The arcs will deal significant damage, so positioning of your attacks is very important here. Sometimes spreading the attacks around a target or on different sides of a target rather than just centered on the same spot will be more advantageous, so that's something to keep in mind here. Especially since we have so many pulls, it's a very mobile build. Monsters are going to be constantly moving. This is just something that you have to learn over time, I think. But yeah, you want to kind of seek that out. This particular build is getting, the reason for the excitement anyway, is the Norvald's Fervor is getting a buff, an increase with the 2610 patch. It's going to go up from 100% increased damage, so a 2x multiplier, all the way up to a 5x multiplier, gaining 400% increased damage while using Steed Charge. And this particular build uses the Steed Charge so much, we have so much cooldown baked in, that you can pretty much keep this bonus up 100% of the time, and that's where we're getting a lot of our damage from. The damage increase to this build is going to be very apparent. Like if you played it on the PTR, then you'll be excited about it too, right? So we were doing greater of 109s in about 3 to 4 minutes with this particular variation. And we only had about 10k int, which, as you know, the Finery passive gives a lot of strength already, so that's pretty darn good. Pretty darn good for a solo speed, so I'm pretty excited to actually run this. Don't really know what else I'll play on the Crusader yet, but I'm definitely going to run this in season at some point. Let's go through the running. Like I mentioned, cooldown is going to be very important. You're going to want to stack it pretty much everywhere it can fit. I mean everywhere, even the amulet, because cooldown is not only important here for damage through the Captain Crimson set, giving us also 20% cooldown, and giving us that multiplier from the cooldown reduction that we stack up. It's also going to be very important for uptime of skills, so keeping up our Akarat's Champion for that second life and that bonus armor. Keeping up our Law of Valor, going to be incredibly important here, giving us a little bit of attack speed, but more importantly, also giving us 50% resource cost reduction, wrath cost reduction. This actually counts towards your damage reduction. So with the Captain Crimson set as well, we get damage reduction from our RCR. Because this gives RCR, it's very synergistic. The uptime, therefore, becomes paramount, and that's why we want as much cooldown as possible. Now, you notice here I've already met the requirement for 100% uptime on my Law, so with the Long Arm of the Law passive, of course, increasing the duration by 5 seconds. But why am I continuing to stack cooldown? Well, we have another skill here called Iron Skin. Steel Skin, giving us 50% damage reduction as well. And it's very apparent when this is not active, and the difference between losing one cooldown affix and having a cooldown affix here is actually quite significant. It goes from like 1.7 seconds up to, I don't know, 2.5 or something. Let's just check that out real quick. 2.53 seconds. So that's the window of time in which you'll be taking increased damage. So if you want to, you can go for the crit there, but I would just prefer to stack as much cooldown as I want. Plus, you know, if you're putting cooldown here, and you won't have to be as selective about having perfected affixes. That's my view on this. Anyway, so because of this focus on cooldown, we're running the Go 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 Swiftness, stacking up our attack speed as well, going to be fairly important for damage, with running the Echoing Fury. So awesome here. So attacks are going to be coming down super quick as soon as we start killing a little bit of trash, and it's just an amazing bonus up until you get to the Rift Guardian. Typically on the Rift Guardian this will fail, or fall off rather. But we have another bonus in the build, the Convention of Elements, that will sort of offset this and allow us to kill those Rift Guardians, or those targets at the beginning of the Rift, a little bit more readily. Coming around on that. For the Crusader, it's quite a long cycle. I think there are 5 elements, but it's still impactful enough that I kind of feel it's worth going for in this particular build, as compared to, say, the Stone of Jordan. We did test out both the Convention of Elements and the Stone of Jordan. We tested out Furnace in the Cube, we tested out a lot of different variations, and this is sort of the one that performed the best at the highest Greater Rift level for a solo speed. Now, Stone of Jordan was really good, so if that's something you want to opt for, getting that extra elite damage, this was a very close second. I'm talking like really close, like a couple seconds behind the Convention of Elements in testing at the same level. I think this would be better suited for a lower Greater Rift level. So if you like, say, drop the Greater Rift level 3 to 4 Greater Rifts, 5 Greater Rifts even, you could do very well clearing even quicker with the Stone of Jordan as compared to trying to fit in a Convention of Elements. Just something to note, because of that extra elite damage, just makes engaging those elite packs a little bit more consistent for those lower speeds, those quicker speeds, in my opinion. We're running the Endless Walk here, so moving and standing still is going to be a part of the build. You're going to want to move while you're going in between packs, while you're pulling with your steed charge, giving you that burst of movement speed, very important. And then when you get to a pull spot, it's very important to not move anymore. Like micro adjustments, they can be good, but just try to find a pull spot and make the best of it. Now, because this particular build doesn't run any shielding, we're not running anything like that, we're going to run just straight toughness and then life per hit on the bracers for recovery. It works out actually quite well with the increased attack speed from the Echoing Fury to restore your health as you go through the rift. Very, very nice. All resistance is going to be a focus of our toughness, as is vitality, because we already have a lot of base armor. So wherever you can fit in those all resistance rolls. Later in Paragons, the life percentage roll does pull ahead on the chest piece, but earlier in Paragons, definitely put the all resistance there as well. Shoulder piece, you know, for example. And yeah, we gain a lot of strength through the Finery passive, as mentioned earlier. Heavenly Strength is required because we're using a two-hander, and then we're running the Indestructible passive, as I mentioned before. While we do have a good base level of toughness, especially at lower Paragons, you won't have as much of that toughness available. So having Indestructible in the build, I just feel is a really good safeguard on top of having Prophet. So what will happen is, first off, your Prophet will proc, I think, and then your Indestructible will go off. I can't remember the ordering, but you have double second life, basically, because it's not quite as hardy of a build. Something you can do if you really, really want to is swap out the Bane of the Powerful for the Esoteric. That definitely makes it a little bit more tanky at those lower Paragons, for sure. But I kind of feel the Bane of the Powerful is really good here, especially since we're not including the Furnace in Either variation, well, I guess this gets the elite damage from the SOJ, so you get up to 45% with this version. But with the COE, you don't have any elite damage at all. It's very impactful here. Just having a close range multiplier is just very nice. Bane of the Trapped, of course, going to be self-proc, so only dealing damage to enemies that are close to you. That's why the focus here is on pulling, on dealing damage close up. That being said, you can sacrifice this multiplier if you're under duress. So if you're getting hit by all those elite affixes or you mismanaged your defensive cooldowns, you can steed charge out of the density and hit them at range for a few seconds while you recover your health via the life per hit. That's also a tactic you can use if required. So something good to keep in mind. Oh, I also mentioned the Dark Light. Giving us those doubled Fist of the Heavens plus the multiplier is actually quite nice here. The cost reductions, similarly, from the Casset's Cord of Righteousness, very, very nice. Yeah, it's just a very well-rounded build, super fun to play with the Echoing Fury, and I hope you enjoy it in season. We do have some alternate low-grade Earthling versions. If you don't have a lot of cooldown, you can swap in the Obsidian Ring of the Zodiac, either with the Endless Walk, or with a Stone of the Jordan, Flavor of Time combination earlier in season if you'd like. So, very flexible, and a lot of power behind it, so very, very good build to run.